Hello everybody, today we are learning to make an Indian style scrambled egg. It's also called anda bhurji. Anda is the Hindi word for egg and bhurji means a scramble. So that's what we call it in our house. It's a very frequent breakfast recipe in a lot of homes in India. It's just a different version of scrambled egg and I hope you would give it a try. So I've set up the ingredients over here. We have 4 eggs. We have salt. Here's ginger, which is an optional ingredient but adds a nice flavor. Here's 1 serrano chili, which you can completely avoid if you don't like spicy food. There's a tomato that you might want to use. There's an onion. There's a little bit of milk that we add towards the end just to add softness to your eggs. And then there's another optional ingredient, which is cilantro. It again adds a lot of flavor to Indian dishes. But if you don't like cilantro, of course, you can skip it or substitute it with something that you like, maybe parsley, maybe some basil. To cook the eggs, we are going to need some butter, or you can also use oil, and some freshly ground black pepper would be a nice addition too. So these are the ingredients that we are going to use. I'll start out by cracking the eggs so that we are ready. And I prefer cracking the egg on a flat surface, and I have a trash can set up right over here so I can put the shells there. So I'll go like this. See how I put my thumb over here in the middle where I've made the crack, and that actually helps me open the egg rather easily. And always crack eggs in a separate bowl just so that if a shell falls in there, you can take it out. So here's my first egg. And I'll go like this, and then of course remember to clean your counter. So make a crack right in the middle, use your 2 thumbs over there, put them over there, and that helps you split it open. There you go. That's your second egg. And in case the shell falls down, that's okay. You can actually take out the egg shell using the shell that you have in your hand. So go like this. There's my third egg. And if a shell would actually fall in, I can use this to fish it out. So here are our 4 eggs. I'm going to run over and quickly wash my hands, because anytime you touch raw eggs, it's a good idea to wash your hands very well with soap. Let's start out by cutting the onions first. So I'll move this to the side and make a cut in the onion. So start by cutting this end first. Then do not cut all of the root end. Go like this. So take a little bit off, but not a lot, because that keeps the onion together. Keep it flat, make a tunnel, go in, cut it like this. Now that you have 2 flat surfaces, it will be easier to cut. Go in and remove the first outer layer. You can use the amount of onion that you feel like using. You can always increase or decrease the amount of these ingredients. Just make sure that you adjust the salt and the other seasonings that you're using according to that. Hold the onion like this and make some slices first. So you want a small dice for this one. Go like that. Turn the onion around, go in like that, and then cut the onion. And if you like onions, you can add the second half, or you can also just use this much onion. This would be perfect too. So I'll just cut the other one also. I may end up not using all of it, but I can store it. Once the onion has been peeled, I have a cutting board out. I can cut it and store it for later use. There you go, and I'll throw this root end away now. Here's our onion. We'll put it on the side for now. I'll use this tomato. Once again, I'm going to make a tunnel. This is a somewhat large tomato, so I'll not use all of it. I'll put a little bit on the side. I probably only need half of it. Once again, I'm just going to cut it into slices first. Turn it around like this. Go in and then make it a rough dice. Okay. There's the onion. Now these chili peppers are fairly spicy, so it's a completely optional ingredient. Definitely skip them if you don't like spicy food, but I do, so I am going to add them today. And remember, when you handle hot chilies, you should wash your hands after that, because the oils on the skin will get onto your fingertips, and then if you touch your skin or your eyes, that wouldn't be very pleasant. So do wash your hands after you handle hot peppers. Here's a piece of ginger which I've already peeled. I'm going to take a little section off, that's about 1/2 inch, and cut this too. This is again very optional. If you recognize the flavor of ginger and seem to like it, go ahead and use it. Otherwise, you can skip this too. Or you can be adventurous and try something new. It's okay if you don't like it. So here's a little bit of ginger. And I'm going to add some salt now to the eggs. So just to give you a rough estimate of how I measure the salt, what I do is, instead of using spoons, I actually see that if I have 4 eggs in here, I do 4 generous pinches of salt. So it's just first, second, third, and fourth. And when I'll be sauteing the onions, I'll add a pinch of salt there too, just because that helps the onions cook faster. I'll add a little bit of black pepper. And all I have to do now is whisk the eggs. And when I'm ready, I can take them to the stove and cook the eggs. One of the last additions would be cilantro that I can prepare now. I'll use a fork to just whisk the eggs. Just to mix the salt and pepper. Maybe we can get our cilantro ready too. I've already washed the cilantro. It's nice and clean. And I'll take a few sprigs of cilantro, keep them ready. You can eat the stems of the cilantro too, but they don't always have a great mouthfeel. So if the stems are tender, go ahead and use them. If the stems look tough, then you can always get rid of them. To cut any herbs, do like this. Make a bundle of them, like this. Okay. Let me remove the ginger from here. And run your knife through this bundle, hold it tight, go like that. So here's your cilantro, and this will of course go in at the end, because you want to add your fresh herbs at the very end, because you want them to retain their beautiful bright color and of course add flavor to your food. To make the scrambled egg, you want to start out by first preheating the frying pan. Once your pan is on medium heat, you want to add some oil or butter. Today I'm using butter. I think butter makes everything better. So we'll use about a tablespoon of butter. And you know the butter stick has a marking on it, so that makes it easy for you to measure it. Now to this, we're going to add some of the onions that we had chopped earlier. You want the onions to cook down. And at this point, we don't really need the onions to become brown, but we want them to soften a little bit. And what can we do to make the softening process go faster? Well, add a pinch of salt. So that's what I'm going to do now. Here it is, just a little bit of salt helps the cooking go faster. So now I'm going to add ginger. Again, it's an optional ingredient. Don't add it if you don't like it. I'll also add the green chilies. And by chopping the green chilies really small and getting rid of most of the seeds, you actually take out a lot of the heat of the green chilies. So it's really not that spicy, but once again, adjust according to your own liking. So we are just waiting for the onions to soften. Once they soften, we are going to add the tomatoes. Don't stir it the whole time, otherwise your food will not cook. So just give it a few stirs and wait for it to cook down. You can see that the onions will shrivel up a little. They start looking soft and they become a little translucent. Once you see this is done, then go ahead and add the tomatoes. We are using half of a big tomato. Once again, adjust the amounts according to your liking. If you wanted to make your food really healthy, at this point you can go ahead and add other vegetables too. Mushrooms would be a great addition. Spinach would be fantastic to add. Peas would be great too. I'm just doing a basic version, the kind that my mom makes. That's the kind you're eating today. So I'm just using the back of the spoon to just mush the tomatoes a little bit. Want them to soften quickly. If you put a lid on your food, then that also helps you in softening the food a little bit faster. So as you can see here, the tomatoes have broken up a little. They're becoming one with the onions, and this would be our time to add the eggs. Now the eggs are here. We have already whisked them a little. We have added salt and pepper to the eggs, and at this point you just have to mix it up. There you go. Now you just have to move it around a little, because anything that sticks to the base of the frying pan will cook faster. So every now and then you need to scrape the sides and the bottom, but you don't need to do a very vigorous shaking action here. Once the eggs are cooked, we can mix cilantro in it. Now traditionally, I see a lot of scrambled egg recipes that we use here use a good amount of milk. However, when I was growing up eating scrambled egg made at home, we would rarely add milk to the scrambled egg. But here's the thing that I do now. I kind of do both of those things. So I make the scrambled egg like this, just the way you're watching me do it. And then I do add a little bit of milk towards the end, because I feel that milk actually softens the eggs a little bit. So go ahead and add some milk towards the end, although it's not very traditional to add milk to scrambled egg in India. Do remember that eggs will continue to cook even when you take them off the flame, so you never want to overcook the eggs. So I can see that there's no liquid in there. It's important to eat fully cooked eggs. You don't want to eat raw eggs for sure. I don't see any liquid. I'm going to turn off the stove, because remember that cooking is going to continue even a little bit after, because the pan is hot. I'm also going to add a little bit of milk to it now. So just a tablespoon or two, you don't have to measure, just like that much. And it'll keep it soft, especially if you're thinking of reheating your eggs and you don't want them to dry out. Do add a little bit of milk, and at the very end, add your finely chopped cilantro. Again, an optional ingredient. So here it is, your anda bhurji, an Indian style scrambled egg. Here they are. Transfer them onto a nice serving bowl. And then taste them. I want to taste a little bit. So I like them a lot. The salt is perfect. The eggs are juicy and moist, and the onions and tomato are giving it a unique flavor. I hope you're going to try this recipe and enjoy it. And of course, go ahead and make your own changes and variations to this recipe and tell us about them. Enjoy!